Coming up, watch all the fielding masterclasses I filmed with coaches in one hit, and be sure to use the timecodes below to navigate through the video.
Okay, so one thing that's sometimes lacking is just not preparing the body to throw. We just kind of come out to the cricket field, do a few stretches, and then start throwing, and then we're good to go. For me, it's really important that we prepare the body to throw as opposed to throwing to prepare. Like, really important that we get a good warm-up in. So I've got 4 pre-throwing stretches that I recommend all of our throwers always do before any throwing session, whether that's practice or a game. And I'm going to take you through them real quick. So the first one is a reverse lunge with an overhead reach. It's exactly what it says on the tin. You're going to start with your feet hip width apart, we're going to step backwards, and then we look to the sky. And then we repeat, and we do the other side. And what's really important with this one is it is a reverse lunge. We go backwards, and the reason being is because we're all cricketers, and I want us to be a little less crickety for this. So if I'm to step backwards, you're going to notice I'm not that far off a decent throwing position. If I was just to turn my feet and get here, I'm in a pretty good throwing position. And so what that happens as I step back is my head gets behind my belly button, and now I'm ready to go. If I was to step forwards, what tends to happen is my head gets in front of my belly button, and now I'm in not such a great throwing position. Now I can't rotate my hips, my head is too far forwards, and it feels just a little bit too much like playing off a shot off the front foot. And getting your head over your front foot is great if you're playing that shot off the front foot, not what we want when we're throwing. So that's why we start with that reverse lunge, just to clue up and remind our body where we want our head to be in relation to our center. Next one is called X open ups. So we start with our feet now wider than our shoulders, and the end position is that we drive our hips forwards and our hands up. So what we want to do is make sure our hips go back and then come forwards, and we're driving that position so our hands open up. And what we will typically do is 4 half squats and then go into a full squat for the last 4. So that would be a set of 8 for our X open ups. Next we have doorknobs, and we go hands out to the side. And if you're doing this along with me, all I want you to do is imagine that you've got 2 enormous doorknobs in your hands, and we're going to try and open these doors up by twisting them forwards and then backwards, forwards and backwards. And what's really important is we're paying attention to what's going on here and here. So not only are we activating our rotator cuff and we're paying attention to how our shoulder's moving, but we're also checking in to see, well, how does my shoulder feel? Does it feel good? Does it feel not so good? Do I need to do some extra work? And once we've gone forwards and backwards a couple times, we can then go opposite. So we go 1 forwards and 1 backwards, just to really prime our shoulder. And then our 4th and final one is called wood chops. And so what we do is we get our feet much wider than our shoulders, and let's imagine that we've got like a tree in front of us, and in our hands we have an axe. And we'll rock forwards, rock backwards, and then we're going to swing that axe forwards and try and chop that tree down. But it's important what's coming next. It's throwing, it's a powerful move. So it's not going to do me any good if I just sit here and just gently tap the tree with my axe. I need to chop it down, I need to use my legs. So when I come through, I've actually got that back leg coming through with some force and power. Rock forwards, rock backwards, and chop through so that my back leg is really involved. And we'll go 1 more for a set of 3. So those are our pre-throwing stretches. Reverse lunge with an overhead reach, X open ups, doorknobs, and wood chops. Now of course you can add other things in. You can have a little game, you can do some extra stretches, but I highly recommend you do those 4 to prime your body for what comes next, which is throwing with intent, throwing with athleticism, and throwing with purpose. All right, so the first thing that I really want to make sure we cover is we talk about grip and how we hold the ball when we throw. Hold the ball across the seams, make the ball go straight, and we think about how do we do this. And for me as a coach, whenever I'm working with someone, I'm really key on making sure this might be the one thing I'm going to key on every time. The next thing that we need to make sure that we think about is that the actual position of the arm. So first off, where should the elbow be? A nice place to think about is just being in a good athletic punching position. So if I was going to throw a punch and get ready here, we'll notice that my elbow is probably about shoulder height. It's certainly not above my shoulder, and it's certainly not tucked down here. Where am I going to position this ball? We used to, and I used to be guilty of this as well, think about, well, I want to point the ball away from my target so I can throw. But that's not really how our arm works. You can just hold your hand up like this. We put the ball in, you can feel how comfortable that feels in this neutral position. And if I twist my wrist too far this way, you can start to feel a little bit of strain. If I twist my wrist too far this way, you can feel the strain run down your shoulder. So it's an indication that this neutral wrist position is probably a good place for us to go with. So that's where I would start with our arm. Get the elbow in a comfortable position as if you're throwing a punch, and having that ball and wrist in a nice neutral position. So this front arm helps me with direction and helps me be on target, but also it helps me actually rotate and turn with the throw. So to simply turn my thumb up, you're going to notice that already my shoulder opens up. Is this the worst thing in the world? No, it's perfectly possible to throw here, and it's perfectly possible to throw here. But if my shoulder's starting to open up, it now means that maybe I'm going to open up this way, and now I can't throw as effectively. So for me, one of the things I look for is, can we keep that thumb down? If an athlete is having a lot of difficulty being accurate and the ball is drifting to their arm side, typically it means this front arm isn't doing its job. So I'm going to really want to make sure we have that thumb down to keep that shoulder closed when we throw. The final piece, need to make sure that we're connected to the ground. I need to make sure that my hips can come through so I can then whip my arm and deliver that strong throw towards the target. So for me, it's really important that we train the legs and we train our feet, not just to be strong, to be athletic. So I'm going to take you through 3 of my core throwing drills for teaching cricketers how to have a good arm action and good arm angle. And first off, so we understand what we mean by a good arm action, like, it's not over the top. We should understand that everybody is a sidearm thrower. Like, everyone, regardless of what position they play, they're a sidearm thrower. If they're a true sidearm, it just means that their chest is upright, their torso is vertical. If they're over the top, they tilt a little bit more, and if they throw underneath, they tilt this way. So our goal is to try and make sure that the elbow matches the plane of rotation of the shoulders when we throw. So how do we get that? First off, we start with making sure we're aware of that punching position, making sure that our elbow is locked in at shoulder height. Now what we have is a progression of throws where we're actually going to throw off the back leg. So this would be my normal throwing position. For these drills, I'm going to have us throwing off of this back leg, and the reason we do it is it helps me get in a strong throwing position. When my back foot's forward and my arm is cocked and up ready to go, it's almost now impossible for my arm to drop out of that good slot. So when my hips fire and they rotate, I'm going to put myself in a great position to now throw and teach my arm and my body, and critically my mind, to remember what that good feeling throw looks like. So first throw, and we just call this a Marshall drill, and the reason we call it a Marshall drill is a pitching coach in the States called Mike Marshall, who unfortunately recently passed away, came up with and promoted these wrong foot throws. So we've called them Marshall for years, but even more so it's important that we recognize the work that he did to helping myself and other throwing coaches help throwers around the world. So Marshall 1, real simple. I'm going to be chest onto the target, and I'm going to take a step with my back foot. Just a small step, not a big step, but I'm just going to lock myself in, back foot towards the target. And from here, I'm going to set that ball up, I'm going to turn and then throw. Throughout the throw, I'm not going to move my feet. And what's really important is I want to keep this ball up. I don't want to minimize anything that could go wrong with my hand dropping below my waist. So a nice cue for me to think about is that this whole cricket field is flooded with water, and I'm going to try and keep the ball out of the water, which is up to my neck. So again, here we go. Foot forwards, ball up, out of the water, and then all I'm going to do is I'm going to turn and throw. Really important is my feet are going to stay roughly in place. They can twist a little bit, but I'm not going to take another step with my front foot. I'm going to make sure it's just my back foot that's in front. So I'm going to get that ball up at water height. I'm going to turn and throw. Next thing to be mindful of is, if you remember this front arm, really important that we keep it closed during the throw. So for this drill, I want to imagine that there's a pane of glass right through me, and when I throw, I'm going to smash that pane of glass here before I throw. I'm not going to come here and just tickle the pane of glass, but I'm going to physically smash and then go. So here's how it looks. Ball up, smash, and go. And then the final teaching point is this thumb. I want to make sure after release that thumb turns over. We'll talk about why in just a second. But my end point, after I've got rid of the ball, is for my thumb to turn over, for this big part of my thumb to be just against the hip right here. So again, last one. Ball up. Imagine there's water at my neck height. Smash the glass and throw. And then I finish with that thumb just on that front hip. Okay, so this next progression is just called Marshall 2, and it's a progression from where we started with Marshall, and we're going to be stepping into that Marshall throw. So you might be thinking now, well, why are we spending so much time throwing off of this back foot? How many times do we make throws like this in cricket? And it's for two reasons. Number one is we do need to be comfortable having a strong and stable back leg. Like when we get to throwing on the run, we need to be able to throw off that back leg. But also, we're not necessarily working on a cricket throw right now. We're just working on good physical literacy when it comes to throwing. And being in a position where our hands and our feet are working together and taking out any confusion that can come from the timing of your front foot or your hips not working right is why we do this piece, because my feet and my hands can work as one. The other thing that we found is for players that can't quite figure out how to use their hips, when we set them up in Marshall, or what we're about to come to, Marshall 2, is getting into this position really helps them get that separation between hips and shoulders and enables them to drive those hips into their throw. So it's one of the best ways for me to think about how do I teach using the hips and legs without ever having to mention it, which for me is coaching gold. So here we go for Marshall 2. So we set up initially with our back foot forwards. All we're going to do is we're going to start with our feet together and we're going to take a step in and throw. Notice, because we're taking a step in and throw, I'm not going to set the ball up as high. I'm going to allow my hand a little bit of time to take advantage of the rhythm that comes with my step. So let's think about that water level. For Marshall 1, when we were here, we had the water up to our neck. Marshall 2, I'm going to take the water down to my chest. Same principle. I don't want that ball to get wet, but now I can just allow that ball to get a little bit lower as opposed to keeping it up nice and high. So here we go. So away from the cones and a step and throw. Again, same thing. I'm really trying to make sure that I close off that front side, and I'm making sure that my finish point is with that thumb over that back hip. Final one. Okay, so last progression here of our Marshall or wrong foot throws, we're going to be walking into it. So we started with Marshall where our back foot was fixed. In Marshall 2, we stepped in, and now with wrong foot, we're going to walk all the way through. So now, because we have even more time, and we can get more rhythm into the throw, we can now allow the arm to do whatever it feels most natural. That can be a really long arm circle, but for me, I think probably a shorter arm circle is still preferential for cricket. So I'm going to stick with a shorter arm circle, but you can go with pretty much whatever you feel comfortable with. But again, my goal is just to make sure that after 2 or 3 steps, I get back into this position where my back foot is down, and then I throw. So, a couple steps back, and all we do is we walk through at a nice pace, back foot comes down, and throw. And I'm making sure that finish position is still the same as Marshall 1 and 2. I still want to make sure that my thumb is turned over, and I promise I'll cover in a minute why that's so important. But again, we just walk through, back foot comes down, and we throw. Making sure I close off that front arm as soon as that back foot comes down. Last one here. So one thing I didn't really cover is the importance of this thumb turning over. Now, for me, it's all about what happens after we throw. So we just think about this. If you're going to throw the ball as hard as you can, and let's say you can throw the ball 90 miles an hour, that means that at release, your hand is moving 90 miles an hour. It now has to go from 90 to 0 by the time you finish. Loads of things that happen naturally in our body are going to help that. in terms of our back leg working, our back working, but critically we also need to make sure that our arm is working well. What should happen is after we throw is we pronate, meaning our hand turns over, and that helps decelerate our arm naturally. If your hand supinates and it comes underneath, then what happens is the bones in your elbow, the tendons collide, and now we're in a position where we're just going to get additional inflammation. And for anyone that has had sore elbows from playing cricket, I find typically it happens an awful lot in spin bowlers, that people throwing here and letting that ball out underneath and not allowing that hand to turn over naturally. Now, I'm not expecting you to have to do this in a game and think, right, field the ball, get up to a position, and don't forget to pronate. But this environment where we're working on throwing and we're just worrying about having good technique, it's a great time for us to think about what does good look like, what does good feel like, how can we teach it so we can hopefully reinforce it when we get out on the field when it matters. So now that we've worked off the back foot, we're going to go into a sequence of drills that's just going to help us be a little bit more athletic when it comes to our throwing. So for me, a couple things matter. Number one, that we are athletic, meaning we're going to have to move, we're going to have good athletic posture. Number two, we need to throw hard, because if we don't throw hard, then what are we training? Are we just training throwing softly and hoping it gets there? We need to make sure we elicit that sort of behavior that we want from the games to happen in the practice environment. So we've got to throw hard. And then number three, we need to throw to a target. Even if we don't hit the target every single time, it's about making sure that we're training our mind, our eyes, and critically our body to go to the stumps and not just a space that, you know, can be defined later. So those three things in mind, we're going to work on 3 throwing drills right now. Number one is just real simple, just a little bit of a step back. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to step back onto that back leg before I throw. And I'm just trying to think about how I can be as strong as powerful into the ground before I throw. So I'm going to get into my athletic position, I'm going to step back and then throw. I'm not jumping back, I'm not having a big leg kick like I would do in baseball, just a step back and throw. And what's really important is that I really think about how I can get that back foot into the ground here. That I'm not just leaning back, but I'm being athletic. That I'm almost imagining there's maybe like a tent peg behind me that I'm trying to drive into the ground. And the other thing that you might have started to notice is I'm making sure that my back leg comes through after I throw to help with that deceleration. I don't want to just sit here and throw and keep my back leg locked into the ground, because then I'm losing power. And I'm also not helping my arm slow down, which is just a recipe for disaster. So one more time, just step back and throw. So we're sticking with these principles of athleticism, and now we're just adding a little bit of movement forwards and backwards. And for anyone who is an aficionado or at least a fan of American football, we call these quarterback drills or quarterback throws. So we're going to shuffle back and then shuffle forwards and throw. And the goal is just to try and maintain that athletic posture throughout. Can we have our feet moving forwards and backwards before we make a throw? So first things first, we get set, then we shuffle back, then we shuffle forwards, and then we throw. Most important thing for me is I maintain that posture throughout the shuffle. Again, thinking about what type of arm circle, how long do I want my arm to be? Probably not long in cricket, so a nice short compact movement is going to help me be a more efficient thrower. So this next one, call them spin throws, because that's exactly what we do. We're going to face with our back to the target and then spin as quickly as we can in order to throw. We do this for 2 reasons. One, in a cricket match, there's going to be times where you're going to pick up a ball and have to throw it without being able to look at the target. Maybe it's behind you, maybe it's to decide, whatever it is. We want to give you a chance in practice to have that experience of not being able to set perfectly and line up to the target, but spin really quick and find it. The other thing though, is it comes back to those hips and shoulders working together. And we find that the faster we spin, the more efficient our arm gets. The faster I spin, the better my hips and my arms do what they're supposed to without me having to actually say, oh, do this with your arm, do this with your hand. This is another great way for you to think about how you can improve your throwing technique even without me even being there. So here we go. Make sure I get in a good athletic throwing position, and here we go. And all I'm doing is making sure before my first move is I get this athletic posture. It'd be really easy for me just to stand here and then turn and go. But I'm going to lose all the good stuff that's going on here by setting myself and getting in that athletic ready position. So I want to make sure, boom, I get here and then I turn and go as fast as I can. And that's also a key point. It's not about spinning and just, well, taking my time and going, spinning quick, seeing how quick my hands and my feet.
What I'm going to do here is just go through the kinetic chain, sequence of events that we use to throw a cricket ball. Okay, so to start off with, we're just going to look to throw in a straight line. But what I want you to do first of all is just to make sure that you start with a good base, a wide base, okay? And when you pick the ball up, we've got the ball in the correct grip, okay? Especially spinners and seamers that we're holding it cross seam, either 2 fingers or 3. So when you pick the ball up, there might be a little bit of adjustment that goes on that gets us into a throwing position there. So if I look at my front leg first of all, I'm just looking to make sure that's pointing at my target wherever I'm looking to throw. Likewise with my front arm, which I'm going to help to generate some power as well, making sure I've got my thumb inverted, which allows me to bring my elbow into my body nice and tight. With my throwing hand, I'm just going to go, if I go here, you'll see that I've got, in essence, rabbit's ears, or I've got my fingers cocked back there, my wrist cocked back, just behind me. And you'll hear baseball players talk about the tee, elbow to elbow, and the trunk, getting into that strong position there, which is really good. And then I'm just looking to make sure that everything goes in a straight line. So, the throwing starts with your back foot on the ground. So if you stand in this position now, if you're throwing, okay, anywhere you like, and if you just literally push the ball of your back foot into the ground, right, tell me what muscle groups you can feel.
Quad, bum.
That's it, okay, so those are the major muscle groups of the body and bigger than any other muscles in the body. So we'd want to use those to help us generate the power. So that kinetic chain starts in the back foot there, comes up through the body, and then we get the hips to turn, creating a little bit of twist in the trunk here, and then we have our shoulders go through, elbow, wrist, fingers, and the ball comes out. So if you just try that now, turn your hips in, but keep your shoulders. So if you think about a broomstick, yeah? Yep. Both pointing at the target at the moment. Yep. So I want you to keep your shoulders where they are, get your hips to turn, so that hip, get that hip to turn. That's it, keep your shoulders where they are, and you can feel a little bit of tension in there, yeah? Just relax, relax. So that's what we're looking to do. Yeah, so just go through the motion. So once the hips have gone, yeah, then the shoulders come through, and then the throwing arm comes through, okay? So again, want to be nice and low as we possibly can to the ground when we pick the ball up, throwing at the other end, okay? So all I'm going to ask you to do now is, we're going to throw 22 yards, because it's a nice easy number, but I just want you to start back there. Can I have the ball, please? I'm just going to bobble it into you, pick it up, and then you can take a step, and then throw it straight, aim for the stumps down there, please. So there's a little bit, so how much do you think you're using your back hip here to help you generate power?
I hadn't even thought about it.
Okay, so at the moment, to the naked eye, it looks a little bit like that's probably, there's not that much separation, so you're not engaging those muscles as much as I would want you to. Okay. Big lad, strong lad, want you to use those to get a little bit more MPH on the ball. Okay, so what I'm going to get you to do, just so as I can see you working and you can feel it working, if you just get ready to throw. Yeah, that's it. Just put your leg inside there, back leg. Okay, just on your inside thigh there. I'm just going to hold on to that tightly. So all I want you to do is keep your shoulders, see where your shoulders pointing at me at the moment? Yeah. I just keep your shoulders where they are. I just want you to turn that hip now. Oh yes, okay, so strong lad. Okay, so there's a lot of power coming out of there that we need to engage with the throw. Okay. All right, so the other thing that's going to help here, all right, we've got a good stride length, but we need to make sure that front foot is open, that allows our hip that freedom of movement to be able to swing through or to be able to rotate there to make sure that we can generate the power. Okay, so good lad, and again, just turn that, yes. Okay, so if you think about all that power coming through there, So that's the kinetic chain, and then through here and out.
Yep.
That's what we want to try and do with the throw there, to be able to increase a little bit more pace as well. Yeah, off you go. Good lad.
Okay.
Good lad. Okay, so, Simo, do you mind just feeding him some balls? Yeah, there we go. Hip, good lad. Good lad, good lad. Keep working that hip, keep working that hip. Good lad, good lad. Okay, try it without now. Keep working that, yeah, good. Bit of Elvis Presley there, love it. Okay, good. Okay, so that front foot's still closing off a little bit, so you're restricting the amount of movement that you've got there. So just make sure you're opening that up. Okay, yeah, try it again. Make sure that front foot's nice and open. Yeah. And again, okay.
Bit close.
Yeah, so you're just closing off a little bit, mate. Just closing off. So just come and stand next to these here.
Yeah.
So your front foot should not be touching any of that at all.
Okay.
So get your front foot off there. That's it, yeah. Because if that comes anywhere near there, all right. Yes, please, Simo. Yeah. That's it. Good. Can you feel that a little bit freer now?
Yeah, like,
Okay.
feels weird, but yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, still, and again, just look to try and get that as much as you can.
Okay.
Good lad. Okay, right, just come in here. So that's something for you to work on, and that's something that we want to make sure our players are properly aligned, because it helps with alignment as much as we can. So what I want you to do now, all right, just get ready there, all right, put the ball in your hand. Okay, so have a look at the stumps, because I want you to hit the stumps. I know there's only 2 there, okay? So keep looking at the stumps, close your eyes. I want you to throw the ball, keep your eyes closed, and I want you to tell me whether it's gone offside or leg side. Have a look, picture it, close your eyes, feel where the ball comes out your hand, throw. Oh my God.
Leg side?
Leg side, I reckon that would have hit leg stump. Okay. So that's probably come out. So that's probably come out in the right place. Okay. So go again. Let's be a bit of consistency. Make sure it's coming out in the right part. Again, off you go.
Pretty straight. Pretty straight, felt good, felt pretty straight.
Okay, so perfect. So keep your eyes open. Yeah. Good lad. Good lad. Oh. The importance of that drill and practicing and making sure we've got the right technique makes a massive difference. And obviously we've only spent a few minutes there working with Oliver there. But I think as well, if you think about the importance of that, so I'll give you an example. If you think back a few World Cups ago, Glenn Maxwell was at mid-wicket, Dhoni was on strike, this is true. Yeah. Okay, Dhoni's hit the ball out to Maxwell at mid-wicket and decided to run. Maxwell's picked the ball up and he's set himself to throw at the bowler's end, but the 30-yard circle was literally in between his legs, so we know he's thrown it 30 yards. As he's picked the ball up, to the time the ball has hit the stumps, how long?
4 seconds, 5
1.2 seconds.
Wow.
Right? So from the time he picked the ball up to the time the ball came out of his hand, how long? 0.4 of a second. Therefore, and most Major League Baseball players only have the ball in their hands for 0.4 of a second. So 0.8 of a second to travel 30 yards, I would suggest he only threw it at 63, 65 mile an hour. Yeah. So you're not throwing it quick, but because he got his alignment right and everything was right, Dhoni was run out by that much. Australia went on to win that game and the World Cup. So the importance of that alignment is massively important. Massive. So the other thing you can do, just to help throwers, because we talk about arm circle, okay, and this is what baseballers do as well, and I quite like it. If you just put the elbow, your ball in your elbow like that, imagine you're throwing into that net. Yeah. If you go big, so you're throwing from the boundary, you're probably going to take your arm back really big there. So in theory, as I take my arm back, the ball should drop behind me. Yep. Do you agree? So if I go back there, it's drop behind me. Perfect. Now, if I'm in the inner circle and I want a shorter arm circle, then in theory now I should throw it and keep it short. It should land in front of me. So imagine I pick the ball up, got in there, and throw. It goes in front of me.
What if I ain't got as big a biceps as you?
Then you're struggling. You'll be all right. There you go. Okay. So all of a sudden we can then start drilling smaller arm circle, bigger arm circle, depending on where you're fielding as well. Okay, so that would work really well. So you've just got to have a little think about what you're trying to do there.
I get you to do something a little bit different. Okay. So what we're going to do, back to target. Yeah. So you'll be stood here. I'm going to feed you the ball. As I feed you the ball, I'm going to call a colour.
Yeah.
Blue or red? Blue there, red there. Those are the stumps that you're going to aim at.
Yeah.
Okay, so just turn and then throw at the target. What I want you to try and do though is try and hold a relatively low position from where I throw it.
Okay.
So if I throw it at your knee, take the catch here, turn, and keep the height.
Okay.
Rather than here and just stand up and get it.
Okay.
In terms of a rationale, like the reason why I'd like to do something like this with different colours is to make sure that the player's making a real conscious effort to look into target, to make sure that they're not just blurring the target and that they're actually actively aligning to the stumps when they throw. If there's one target there, sometimes the footwork can be a bit blurry, sometimes the lineup can be a bit different, whereas if they've got two active scenes, you should see the player go from this position, turn, and then get actively aligned, even though they've got their back to the target. It's just a different, fun way of doing it. Red. You'd hit it. Blue. Okay, so my question now is, where has the miss been? Is there been a theme so far on either one? Ned, you got a theme?
Going missing that side.
Okay.
Missing far.
So, what's that been caused by, do you think?
Not sure. I think I'd probably aligned a little bit too far around. I need to adjust where I'm aiming.
Okay, so conscious effort every time I get a blue is to make sure that left foot and my body weight is driving straight, if not a little bit left, and see whether I can miss to the left or hit. So my aim is to make sure that that left foot drives towards the target, my centre of my body goes towards the middle or fractionally left. So we don't mind a pull because it's a correction, it's a positive one.
Yeah.
All right, red. Blue. Good. So positive correction. Blue. So for me, the idea of throwing at stumps is to make sure that the players have a positive experience of it. So if I'm working with a player that might be a little bit younger or newer to the game, I just increase the amount of stumps that will be there. So go from 3 to 6, even to 9, it doesn't matter. But I try and keep the centre bit a different colour, so they've still got some awareness of what 3 stumps or 1 stump would look like. But if I miss the centre target, I'm still hitting the stumps. I'm getting a positive experience of throwing at the stumps rather than a single stump for a 11-year-old that's new to the game. It's going to be an extremely tough target. It centres their vision, but they're going to be throwing a lot and missing a lot. I want them to get a really positive experience by aiming at some stumps and hitting them. If I have to set up 6 to start with, that's fine. As they get better, I can take stumps away. But get some positive experience of throwing to hit as opposed to throwing to miss. So we're just going to change this up and make it into about throwing at the stumps, but from a front-on position, and start to link in a more accurate align from pickup into the stumps. Okay, so I'm going to feed the ball. Come a little bit closer to me. I'm going to feed the ball. You're going to start in a square position. As soon as the ball comes out of my hand, I'm going to call the colour.
Yeah.
You pick up the ball, travel through the ball in alignment with which side of me you're going to throw, either blue or red.
Perfect.
Okay?
Cool.
And then shuffle your feet, make the throw. Blue. Blue. Red.
Oh, that's close.
Red.
Yeah.
Okay, so again, idea here is that with the front on position, you're picking up the ball and you're traveling with a direction towards the stumps. You're really making sure energy and efficiency of the feet goes from here, straight from the pickup, into transferring my feet, replacing the ball with my feet, and it goes directly to the target, sending my weight as close as I can there. So I want to have the most consistent pickup position and the most consistent travel all the way through the set of stumps, so nothing's taking anything off of me. You've got one set of stumps, which is that one there. Yeah. I'm going to throw the ball a bit to your left, maybe a bit to your right. Different paces, you just got to pick up. Most efficient way of picking the ball up and throw it to the target. Cool. Let's keep it as simple as that for now. Cool. Good. So on that one, you're talking about making sure you've got a lot of time, or we haven't put any time pressure on you to be able to let go of that ball. So you've given yourself an extra step. Yeah. Okay, perfect. So I think hopefully you've seen there the way that I'm throwing the ball out is quite deliberate in terms of showing the angle with my body. Because I don't have a hitter or a batter, I still want to make sure that my fielders are walking in and anticipating using what's in front of them visually. So they're making sure that they are watching the batter to be able to get some clues. So hopefully you will see Ned walking in, and as soon as I'm showing my body weight going this way, he's already going to make some moves. He's not just stood there waiting for the ball to come out. He's already anticipating and using the line. Just makes things a little bit more real for the players. What I'm going to do is I'm going to call a number.
Yeah.
1 being the batter's run, and it's going to be a tight, no time. I need to get rid of this as quickly as possible.
Yeah.
2 is there's been a mix-up. All you have to do is hit the stumps and they're out.
Yeah.
There's no time pressure.
1.
Beautiful, Nedley. There you're seeing difference between the first hit, which had no time pressure, where the ball's gone to the right-hand side, picked up, gained 2 feet balance, and then threw down. The second time, there's time pressure on it, so he's picking the ball up on the run and making a throw. 2!
Oh, no, he's missed them.
1 more. Take your time. 2, time. Time. Oh, lucky. Yeah, so in terms of session design, when I'm fielding, I pick the player and their stage of development. But that style of session where you go through a process of going through some technical work that might be about doing a lot of repetition of a skill and making sure that it's strong and that it's holding up and that they are really developing that side of their game, to putting it under a little bit of pressure where you're keeping it open but not too open, and then putting it into an open situation where they're having to make some decisions and seeing whether the carryover's happening. Because it's really important that if you're coaching these guys, that, in my view, that you're seeing that technical development happening and crossing over the whole time. So it's not just a big block of technical work and then go and do some open practice. It's, can we do a bit of technical work, a bit of open practice, do some decision making, come back to some technical work. What's breaking down? Why is it breaking down? And it's a bit more fluid. I'll rotate between doing some really open stuff and go, okay, you're missing a lot to the right. Okay, let's close this down a little bit, make it a little bit more technically based or a little bit more defined, and then let's open it back up and see if we get some transfer. So there's a lot more interweaving of the session than it is just about making sure that we have a 6-week block of technical catching work and then we send them outside and we hit them some flat catches and we see whether they've worked. I'm just trying to constantly check and challenge against, has the technical work challenged over yet? Is there making a difference? Are they able to do what they did with an underarm with a hit off of the bat? And then the session design, I'm constantly trying to create a drill or a constraint around it that's coaching and doing the work for me a little bit, so that I'm there to help, but that the session is being run and that the session has some parameters set by the drill. So there's a coloured ball to hit, or there's a situation where there's a batter that's running, or a ball that I have to throw the ball into. Something that's going to create, a simple example is if I've got a player that's missing a lot of throws short and full, so they're missing up and down. What do? I'll try and make the target very low and very wide. So again, I'll make the target maybe 6-7 stumps wide, but I'll cut them off and I'll make it very low. So they're already trying to go, well, if I got a hit, I've got to make sure my length's better, and I'll sacrifice a bit of height. Or if they're missing wide, but their length's very good, I'll set the target very long. So I'm trying to create some practices around that are making the drill do the work for me, as opposed to me having to intervene and using words all the time and technical cues, so I can strip myself away.
Someone were to ask you about the technicalities of fielding, is it being dynamic? So as opposed to just simply walking in, is it almost having that split step? When you're throwing, do you have anything in terms of the way you throw, shoulder position, etc.? Any nuggets of advice you could give?
Yeah, I think people keep asking me about what what elements make a good fielder, and there are a couple that you can work on. Obviously, reflexes, yes, but if I had better reflexes because of my fielding, I would be a much better batter. So I wasn't someone gifted with, you know, additional speed, or I wasn't the fastest guy over 100, but the first 5 meters, I was really quick, short, quite short. But I anticipated, I expected every ball to come to me. So that was the first thing. So you can be a better fielder without actually doing a single bit of practice.
Okay, so we're just going to look at a little bit of catching here first of all, okay? Most important thing, as silly as it sounds, we need to catch the ball with 2 hands. And we just need to make sure we're catching the ball in the correct part of our hands. So in order to do that, we just want to make sure we've got a good posture, where you've got a good balance, and you've just got a good strong position that just allows you to access the ball really high, medium, low, medium, and high. Just beautiful. Okay, so as soon as the ball goes a little bit wide, just want to be able to open up our front foot there, or the ball nearest the ball, foot nearest the ball, just so as it allows us to open our hips up to get to the ball there. Same on the other side. Okay, so you can just see that foot opening up. Okay, so even when it's high, we're nice and strong there. And what we want to try and do when we finish catching the ball is make sure that we've got a structure to catch the ball with. So if you look at my hands there, and if you join my elbows up with a straight line, you'd have like a triangle. If you did the same there, you'd have a triangle. Have the same there, you'd have a triangle. So we're just looking for that structure when you catch the ball. When we try and catch the ball, try and catch it out in front of you, not too close. There will be times when the ball just gets big on you or really quick, and you do end up catching it almost behind you, if you like, or level with you. But wherever possible, out in front, just so as you can line the ball up with your head and your eyes as much as possible. Okay, so here's the thing about catching the ball in the correct part of the hand. If I'm being really honest now, when I throw the ball up and I catch it, that wasn't a great catch, even though it was a catch. And that's because I caught it in my left hand and then it rolled into my right. If I throw it up again and catch it there, I've caught that in the correct part of my hands, and I've secured the ball, I've trapped the ball. So whenever I catch the ball or pick it up, whether it's a catch or it's a bounce feed or I'm picking it up, I always want to pay attention to detail to make sure I get the ball in the correct part of my hand every time. So okay, so yeah, I'm going to say no, because I caught it and it just bobbled out a little bit. Still caught it, but I want to get it in the correct part of my hand. Yes, definitely. Yes, liking that. And again, just look at that posture and look where I've caught it, trying to get my hand in line with the ball as much as I possibly can. Yeah, there again, got that structure, strong hand. So I'm trapping the ball wherever possible. Straight in the middle, and if we just go right hand here only at the moment, so just one-handed, so again just trying to get it in the correct part of my hand, done me for a little bit of pace. Same with the left hand, haven't got that as well as I should have done. Okay, so I've got a real focus. Yes, that's better. Okay, so I've got to make sure I'm concentrating wherever possible. There we go. Beautiful. So in terms of high catching, we still want the same principles in terms of watching the ball, making sure we get it in the correct part of our hand. And where possible, ideally we want to be stationary, all right? But there will be times where we're on the move because of the situation of the ball. So again, good posture, good balance, and a good base to work from. And we're either going to go what we call traditional method, where our fingers are pointing out, making sure the hands are together, and we want to keep these side palms, as I call them, together so as the ball can't burst through. Likewise, if the ball's going over us a little bit, we might change our stance, reverse our hands and go that way, so we're catching the ball, taking it to one side, or we're taking it to this side, okay? Okay, so over my head, bang. And again, really strong with those hands, so I haven't gone anywhere. So just drop it a little bit short, I'll just come into this one. So again, nice and strong with my hands, watching it all the way in, okay? And if there's a flat catch, one that's been flat batted at you, it may be that you have to go reverse hands, or you may have to go there. Okay, so again, the big thing with this is that I've used my posture, so you can see there that I've just dropped myself to allow me to go reverse method. Again, not too bad, and again, nice and strong, and if you join my elbows up, I've got that triangle, so I've got a structure to catch from. In terms of just making sure that your hands stay nice and strong, and this sometimes works, these balls here, these weighted balls, like Sandfield, different weights, you can get these from MSG. If you just want to throw these just to start off with in here, Simo, yeah, yeah. It just makes me keep my hands really strong, because there's quite a bit of weight. So we go with a bit of a heavier one, okay? So they're quite heavy. Oh yeah, so you can hear the weight in that. So if I'm not very strong, you can see the ball's gonna burst through. So I've got to make sure I keep my hands really strong. And I think that's, so just go outside of the body. Yeah, so again, same technique as we spoke about earlier, but being really strong with my hands to make sure I trap the ball and secure it.
Do some technical catching work, just some things that you want to stay on top of that are specific to you.
Yeah.
What would they be typically for you?
Just keeping as wide surface area as possible, watch the ball right into my hands, making sure my hands are nice in front. I can sometimes get them caught in it, so keeping them nice in front, making sure, watching that ball all the way.
What's your constant battle against for your catching? What are you trying to marry off against the two factors that we're looking for?
Well, I think the main thing for me is I kind of keep them in here. Yeah. I don't keep them out in front.
Yeah.
So trying to keep that and keep a strong body position to make sure I'm balanced. I'm kind of showing that as much as possible.
Yeah, and strong hands.
Yeah.
Without them becoming tense.
Yeah.
Isn't it as well? So you're constantly trying to battle against making sure that my hands are strong without them getting into a position where they create energy back onto the ball. So they set and they absorb the ball in a strong way without it becoming pushing out and without them coming back in to help you keep the ball in tight.
Yeah.
So we'll just catch 10 balls straight in and we'll change the drill as we go. Oh yeah. 5 feet. Go a bit to the right now. Nice. Good catch. Cool, bit to the left. Catch. Yeah, so you'll see there Ned's really relaxing his hands and making sure his thumbs are nice and loose before he's catching that. That's to make sure that he is in a position where he's really getting the balance between having strong hands and also having relaxed hands that allow the ball to come in and that he's still feeling the catch. There is a balance to be had, and for him, making sure that he's setting up and making sure he's relaxed enables him to then push out into a really nice strong position and allow the ball then to hit and absorb, as opposed to him being tense from this position and the ball coming and then it being very hard. There's a really big difference between having hardened hands that move towards the catch and create energy back into the ball versus a hand that sets, that's strong, but then absorbs at the position when the ball hits. Here we go. Nice. Good. Bury that ball in there. Good. Nice. Good. Good. Nice. Righties. So let's try and do this now with just one step.
So it's going.
Yeah, one step and turn. Good. So you're going to try and stay as much as you can on the inside of that foot. So when it turns, trying to keep the weight forward so that I'm not seeing, as soon as I'm seeing this, I'm seeing your weight have to travel back. Yeah. Try and keep it nice and strong.
Okay.
Good. Good, other side. Okay,
Same again.
thing with that foot. Good, positive weight forward. Good. I think one of the things you have to accept sometimes with catching is that people have got their own methods of doing it. So Ned would be like a few players who actually connect together quite late on in the catch. So some people go early and they'll do all of their work when the ball's arriving with the connection here. Some guys connect quite late with their hands together. Ultimately, they do connect and the fingers do overlap or come next to each other. But it sometimes happens earlier and later. Some of the things you have to be a part of and just allows people to have a natural, personal style of catching rather than fitting them into a box. But there's some non-negotiables about weight and making sure the hands are strong, head position. But I'd like to think we could do a good job of making sure that people still have their own natural way of doing things because it's going to keep them as relaxed as possible. So Nelly, we're just going to move on now to the weighted balls.
Yeah.
So we're going to do those single-handed,
Okay.
right hand, left hand, alternate 5 either side. Come a bit closer. I'll use the heavy
Should we
one
go
first.
just in there?
No, we're going to go turn out.
Oh, it's a slap.
Let's not use that one. Good. Ja. Good. Other side.
Oh, he's dropped it.
Good.
I'm catching slightly behind.
Yeah. Good point. Again, keeping that hand nice and positive. Keep it in front so you can see it in your eyes so that it makes it easier for me to watch it in. If it's over here, I have to do a lot of work with my head. If it's in my peripheral vision, it's not only stronger because it's out in front, but I can also see it.
Yeah.
Good. Keep it in front of that knee. That's it. Positive. Good. Good. Okay, stop. So the reason why we use heavier balls, again, I love doing it with younger players especially because it's a great way of them to feel the difference of what happens when the ball comes into your hand and what happens if I'm giving too much or my body is too weak, as Ned will feel, is that force of the ball is going to knock me back. It's going to really give me an idea about how to stay strong with my body and relaxed with my hands, rather than really tight, tense hands and a weak body that's still going to knock me backwards. It's a great way for people to feel the difference, because when you then go back to catching a cricket ball, it feels brilliant and you feel strong, your hands feel big, because I've overloaded it with those heavier balls. So they're a really good addition, I think, to your armoury when you're trying to get someone to feel what that feels like in the hand. So I'm going to move on. So those drills there, we're talking about 100% as your underarms, half volleys as a batter, the things that are going to make you feel really good. Good positions and should be 10 out of 10 catches. The catch difficulty is relatively low. I'm going to now put it up a little bit of a notch and try and put the catch under pressure by making it less about where the ball goes and give him less cues in terms of where it's going to be. So he has to make some decisions on what his body position is going to look like. So I'm going to go anywhere he can, and I'm also going to make it a little bit more achievable by using the incredible, just to take the pressure off his hands. Oh, Nedley, done you. Sorry. Feel like you can move out of that position if you want to.
Oh, yes.
I'm going to show you which direction it's going. Good, that's better. That's better. Still feel light so I can still step to that side. Good. Keep coming. Thank you.
I'd rather that one go in front though.
Hey?
I'd rather that go in front if I dropped it.
Good, so I like this drill for me because I've got real big control over what sort of standard and level I can put this at. So I can do this drill and make it really challenging for a professional cricketer by how fast I feed, how close I get, but I can also tear it back to make sure it's achievable and that they're getting a decent catch to drop ratio. It's hard enough that they're dropping a few, but it's also easy enough that they can still see the technique transfer from these 100% 10 out of 10 drills into this, and occasionally break down, but that's okay because they're going to learn from that and then move on. Good. Good. Nice low. As we've gone from 10 out of 10 to a little bit of variability, now a fair amount of variability, but you've also got a little bit of an extra factor to play in as well, which is watching the certain type of shot from the position that I'm going to be in.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to put you at backward point and I'm going to use a cut to be able to hit it there. That's it.
Oh, slap.
Same
Good
spot.
slap, that.
Good slaps. Good. So this is where you're going to start to see some of the variability of the catch. So the catch might start coming in a little bit, the position might weaken, potentially because you've gone to the most open style of having the batter hitting the ball. But that's okay because you can keep monitoring it. The difference between catching fielding-wise and keeping-wise is a little bit more open. You're a little bit more on the move, potentially. The heights and stuff are very different. So the positions and the way we practice it has to replicate that, I think. Sometimes you have to be on the move a little bit more akin to standing back when you're keeping. So you're actually getting used to catching when the ball's travelled further and not always doing it off of 5-yard underarms. You have to let the ball travel a little bit more distance.
Oh, yes.
Great catch. Great catch. Last two, buddy. Good. Strong.
It's in front.
Good in front. Yeah, very good. Nice moving. Good. Okay, well done, mate. Yeah, so when we're talking about catching, more specifically about the body positions that you're looking for, one of the keys there when I'm working with Ned is to make sure that we're making the position at contact very strong and very stable, but that allows some movement. So what I'm talking about is foot. I'm getting very specific over seeing results of what happens in the body and being able to use that to then coach back towards them. So when you typically see someone catching and they might fall off their catch and be a bit weak and the ball come back, you'll see things like the bottom of their feet start to lift up off the floor. That's an indication that potentially at impact, their body weight is starting to force back on them, which means not only does my catch become a little bit more unstable, but it also means that my reach, and especially at slip, my ability to be able to get to balls in front of me becomes a little bit modified, or I find it harder to get at those balls. It's really important, especially at slip, that those balls that are in front here, I have access to. So as that ball's been hit or nicked, my body weight doesn't go back into the heels of my feet, that they stay in the middle, if not a little bit further, so that my body weight can then get out in front. So if you look from side on, you should make sure that you see the shoulder line and the hands line always being relatively in front of your knees, so that you've always got access to balls coming in here. The minute you get a bit too far back, use a bit too much knee bend, your hands then get in between here, and it becomes very difficult to try and get around your knees, or you have to move them out of the way. This is also within people's general kind of style about how they catch. Some people will be a bit wider, some people more narrow upright, but the general basics are making sure that by the time that ball's being caught, that I'm trying to move as little as I can. I'm trying to stay as still and also being able to have access to the catch. So toes lifting off on the catch are a sign that at some point between the ball being hit or thrown, their body weight is coming back a little bit too much and they're trying to come off of the catch a little bit too early.
Will, you're going to show us some ground fielding tips for all. Take it away.
So yeah, the most important thing that we need to think about is what is the aim, what's the objective of fielding the ball on the ground. Obviously it's handle the ball well so they can't get an extra run, but then it's to get the ball back onto either the keeper's end or the bowler's end as efficiently and accurately as possible. And that all starts with our legs and the types of positions we get into. So the first thing we need to think about is, even before the ball is hit, what are we doing? And one of my big bugbears in cricket is walking in. And I know culturally it's what we do in order to be in time with the bowler. But what we find is when we walk in, it slows us down, that we're not necessarily in a particularly athletic position. I'm much more of a fan, especially if you're fielding in the circle, and think about how we almost incorporate like a little split step from tennis. So rather than me walking back and forth every time the bowler delivers, but just having a little bit of downtime and being ready, right, as the bowler approaches, now I'm going to get ready, and then right as that ball enters the batting area, boom, now I'm in an athletic position. And I would argue that that's much easier for me to get into a place where I can now react left, right, forwards, backwards, jump in the air, whatever I need to, than if I'm walking in and hoping that I'll get there. Walking in might work for some, but I found that getting this little split step is a much better strategy for us to be in an athletic fielding position. So what we're going to work on now is technique for fielding the ball and throwing it to the stumps when we're inside the circle. Now, hopefully, if we're all on the same page, if the ball was hit right at me, I could just field it and come into my regular fielding position. Or if I'm throwing already in my line, I can stay in this position. What I want to focus on is what happens if I need to throw to my non-throwing side. I'm a right-handed thrower, so if the ball's hit at me and I now need to change direction, how can I do that as quickly as possible? Because we're looking here to save fractions of seconds, and it might take too long for me to come up, set my feet, turn all the way around, and get lined up. So I need to think about how quickly can I get rid of the ball. So the first variation we're going to do is just dropping a knee. And when this ball comes in, all I'm going to do is drop my knee and then throw from here. And it's that simple. I want to be clear, it's not a long barrier. I'm fielding this ball here, and as it comes in, I drop the knee and then throw. Okay, so the next progression from throwing inside the circle is to move a little bit further back and stay on our feet the whole time, and we're going to introduce now a half pivot. So as opposed to dropping my knee and throwing, I'm going to half turn, but the goal is I'm not going to take all the time to spin all the way around. I'm just going to get my feet set, chest onto the target, and get rid of it as quick as I can. It's going to feel a little bit almost like a sidearm sling, but again, it's about keeping my elbow and shoulder in line together so I protect this line. So even though I'm here, this is still a strong throwing position as opposed to dropping my elbow down. As long as I can maintain this posture between my shoulders and my arm, we're going to be good to go. So now the biggest benefit from dropping the knee or using that half pivot is speed. But sometimes we lack a little bit of power. So the further we get away from the stumps, the closer we get to the edge of the circle, we need to incorporate our feet a little bit more. And so this last one is called kind of the inside pivot, where we're going to pivot as quick as we can to get our feet and shoulders lined up. But again, the emphasis is still speed. I can't be taking many steps. I need to think about how quickly I can get the ball and then go 1, 2 into the throwing position. 2 steps or less in order to get rid of this ball. So when throwing from the boundary, the objective remains the same as from the inner circle. We need to get the ball as quickly as we can from the ground back to either the keeper or the bowler's end. The difference is we now need to throw the ball further. So how do we throw it further? Well, we use our legs. But how should we use our legs? How do we do that as efficiently as possible? There are 3 ways that we can do this. First one, the ball's hit right at me and I need to throw it straight away. I'm going to use what I would call a drive step. Maybe we used to think about it as a crow hop, but I prefer a drive step because I find with a crow hop, we jump a little bit too much in the air and I want our energy going towards the target. So my drive step would be I'm going to attack the ball, field it off of that front foot, and then drive this back leg towards the target to get myself into that strong throwing position. The next one would be if it was to my non-throwing side. So for me as a right-handed thrower, that's my left hand. If I was to attack this ball here and then implement a drive step, I'm gonna end up misaligned to the target. So I need to kind of use that inside pivot footwork again as quick as I can, shuffle my feet into a strong throwing position. This isn't going to be as strong as a drive step, but it's quick, and in some ways quick is as good as anything, especially when it comes to cricket. And then the final one would be on a ball to my arm side. So if I'm running along the boundary, I'm close to the boundary, I now need to throw the ball back in. What I'm going to find is if I pick it off of my front leg, it might actually be better if my back leg is my front leg in this position. So as I'm coming in to attack the ball, I field it here as opposed to fielding it here. And what this now means is I can include a step behind. So I can pick it up off my right leg, left leg, and step behind and get lined up. This will be the most powerful of the three, but I am taking an extra step. That shuffle here means that there's more time on the throw, so I really only want to implement that when I have to, which is fielding the ball off of my right hand side. So now we're going to work on just a little bit of progression on throwing on the run. The end goal is to make sure that we're comfortable throwing on the run. And it's such an important skill for cricket to be able to pick the ball up one-handed and get rid of it and ideally hit the stumps on a direct hit. But how often do we practice it? I mean, even myself as a throwing coach, I talk an awful lot about strong throwing positions, yet most of our run-outs come from here. Not to say that this doesn't matter and this isn't important, but we do need to spend some time giving our players confidence and the skills critically in order to execute those running throws. So we're going to start right at the beginning and then work all the way up to some hopefully pretty athletic, pretty great throws. So we're going to start with just getting comfortable balancing on one leg. So I'm a right-handed thrower, so that means it's going to be my right foot. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to open up my foot ever so slightly, and I'm going to balance on one leg, and then from here, I'm going to try and throw. And for me, this is really important that I balance. Two things are going to happen. One, I'm obviously developing the skill of throwing on one leg, but I'm also developing that connection between my top and my bottom halves. I'm having to subconsciously brace my core in order to balance. I don't want to just stand on one leg and throw. I want to take my time. So I'm going to get balanced, and then from here, throw. And if I can, I'm going to try and keep that front leg off of the ground. And then once I've made a couple, now I'm going to experiment a little bit and see if actually can I get a little bit low. As I drop my torso, my arm goes, but I also need this leg out to balance me. So I'm not dropping my arm here, my whole body is tilting to the side. So this would be over the top. Now I'm going to come to the side. And now I might even go underneath, submarine style. So again, we come here and we go martial. Making sure my back leg is plugged into the ground, making sure my arm action is good. Now from here, the next step of martial is to go walking throws. And the benefit for throwing on the run is we're now just increasing that intensity just a little bit. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to walk towards the cone I just threw off, but every time my back foot hits the ground, I'm going to make a throw. So it's like the wrong foot throws. It is the wrong foot throws, but it's in the context of building up to throwing on the run. So I'm going to start back here, walk in, and every time my back foot hits the ground, I'm going to make a throw. So now we need to add in some running. And we're going to go forwards, backwards, and forwards. You'd be surprised at how challenging it is to throw on the run while moving backwards and forwards. We often find that we run forwards and the first thing players want to do is set their feet and get back to this strong throwing position, which is great, but that's not what we're working on. We're working on throwing off this back foot. So we're just trying to encourage them to keep their feet moving and throw on the run. And then do the same while they're going backwards. And what we find is when they throw backwards, the accuracy often goes completely out the window, but that's fine. The purpose of the drill is just to get comfortable being athletic and moving. So again, we run forwards and throw, and then run backwards and throw. Then for our final progression, we now need this cone set up in the middle. So we now have a target, and we're going to go between our side cones here, so it gets a little bit more game-like, a little bit more like we're trying to throw on the run. Get those batsmen out between the stumps as they're trying to take an extra one, or dare I see it, even two off of us. So we're going to start here on this side cone. I'm going to run towards my other side cone, but every time I get to the middle cone is going to be when I throw. The trick here is obviously this is my arm side, so I can just throw on the run and keep on moving. When I'm coming this way, I've got a choice. I can either open up and throw across my body here, but that's not a strong way to throw. Much better for me to actually spin, pirouette almost like a ballerina and throw. So there we go, throwing on the run. Starting from the most basic principle of standing on one leg, building all the way up to throwing across your body and even adding a little spin to finish.
Okay, so we're just going to talk about a little bit of a two-handed pickup now. I just want you to have a think about where you pick the ball up. So the other thing that we've got to look at as well is just making sure that we're getting into a good set position when we're walking in. So get into a good set position. There we go. So there's got to be that little bit of ability to make sure that we can move left or right. So as I walk in, bang, I'm set, and then I can pick the ball up, blow, and get it in. Okay, so as the ball's approaching you, I want you to try and pick the ball up in front of your body there. So get your backside down as much as you can.
In front of my front foot almost?
Yeah, so that's the difference there. So if I leave my hands there, yeah, I've not moved them, but as soon as I come back with my backside, it comes up and it brings my hands up. So if we're trying to pick the ball up on our back foot, it's harder. So try and pick the ball up out there, out in front, because then it just allows us to keep going with the momentum towards the target as well. So watch his feet here as well. Make sure he's crossing over in front. Cross over in front, yes. Yeah, gone behind again. Yeah, there we go. So imagine we're at square leg here, yeah? Ball's just been hit out, little underarm, bang. Yeah?
Yeah.
All right, so just a little underarm, Simo. Yeah, pick it up. Yeah. Beautiful. Stay on line, keep going as straight as you can.
Okay.
Good at this, so go with your opposite hand as well.
So don't peel off, go straight.
Yeah, go as straight as you can. The more alignment we can get, the better.
Straight at the stump.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so again, just go left hand. Beautiful. So what happens when it doesn't go straight?
Okay.
What happens then? What are our options? Yeah, good lad. Go on, pace, stay low, stay low. Be electric, there you go, beautiful. So what happens when it goes this side? Okay, right, ready? Yes, Simo, yeah.
Oh.
My process about coaching diving is, first of all, let's make it achievable, let's make it safe. So let's talk about start position. The fear of diving potentially comes from people when they are very high up. So they've got into a very high starting position and the ground seems a long way away. So the idea is, let's take that fear away originally. Let's make things as safe and as comfortable as we can on the floor. And let's get some basic ideas of how we use the ground and how we connect with the floor. So one of the ways we can do it is by starting in this position and getting people to learn how to take contact with the floor by rolling as a start, because it's a little bit more smoother than diving and landing and collapsing. So how I'd start is get them in a 4-point position, get them in a position where they're on all fours, and take their one side and tuck it underneath and past their left. So right hand to left knee, and then effectively just keep reaching until you get to a position where your shoulder is closest to the floor and you're going to look to roll over that shoulder. So you get into this position and you roll over. So from that angle, you're in this position, hand up, reach, push as much as you can, and then feel and roll over. Again, I'm using how I feel and roll with the ground in the simplest form with people that are just starting out, get them used to using the floor. So the next point will be raise the start position and increase the speed. Take them to all fours, off of all fours and into this position. Again, same thing, reach forward, tuck, push, and roll. Again, same thing. Be in a position, get as low to the floor as you can, hands out, reach, push, and get used to taking contact with the floor. So you can do a roll over that way. You can also do the roll sideways. So this is what I would call or term a tumble dive. So you're keeping your face and your body facing the direction of the balls coming to you, and a ball that's been hit hard, but you don't need a full length dive. You reach out, again starting in a 2-point stance, 1 foot up, 1 knee down, hand out in front, reach forward, make contact with the hands, and then roll over. Again, same thing, going the other way, hands out, reach forward, make contact, imagine I've caught this ball, and then tumble. At higher speed, you take them off of the floor, onto their feet, and in a position where, again, you're shifting your weight. Really big point with diving is that you shift your weight so that you create a position when you push that you're going to go along. People that don't dive particularly well or dive up and over, which we see a lot, is to do with potentially their inability to be able to shift and push. They'll just turn, leave their weight in the middle of their body, and they'll be in this position. So when they go to push, they just stand up. We want to be in a position where when I push, I go forwards and towards the dive. It also helps to create a knee lower to the ground, which helps everything become smoother. So with that tumble, force my weight, reach out, push over. Same thing again, here, and tumble. Next point is starting point. Try and get some long sleeves when you're diving. Helps out on mats to prevent burns. Trying to give people a positive experience of diving. So anything that's going to prevent that is a good thing. So fluffier mats, slidier mats, hands, even put socks on your hands to create gaps where there's skin on show, just to try and make sure that their experience is as positive as possible. So the next one is just your orthodox dive along the floor on your front. So they won't probably dive used predominantly most, probably second to a tumble. So again, same point in starting. You can start them in a 3-point stance. Get them used to falling into their front. So you start in this position, up into this position, hands out in front. Get them used to landing and doing this. This is all step by step. Get them used to landing and pushing through. Again, with that, keeping this on here, my mat's not particularly slippy, but you will try and get from a fall, where I'm using that, to then tucking toes under, or maybe going to a split, where I'm starting to feel some sort of push onto the front. And again, I'm trying to distribute all of the force across the whole of my body. So when I then do come to put some speed onto it, that I can land and take the hit on big body parts as opposed to elbows and knees. As soon as I lose a little bit of confidence or I come from too high, what you'll see is guys or girls will come in and potentially start to not back themselves to skid, and they'll start to go down with the knees first. You'll try and make sure that they're really confident in being able to hit on these. So again, in a stood up position, transfer that weight, shift your weight outside of your body and push into the floor. Again, without the ball is okay. I think you need to be able to feel what it's like to hit the floor and to feel okay doing that. So next dive would be, so these are when the balls are on the floor. The main objective is to stop the ball going past, hopefully clean hands it, so I've got it in my hands, or produce a stop where the ball is in and around me, both sides, tumble and also flat. Next one would be when there's a catch. So we can use a catch where we're trying to keep the ball off of the floor. So rather than stopping our momentum and hitting, we can do a catch and roll. Keepers will use this quite a lot. The best way to do it will be to, again, start in that simple 5 position, either on 2 knees or 1. But basically, the coaching point is to try and generate the ball coming in, me catching, and then instead of where we would stop the ball and hit on front, we're just trying to allow the ball to keep going past us with our hands, and that's going to turn into my roll. So again, from here, safe starting point, really low to the floor, reach out, shift my weight, and then allow the ball to go past. Standing up, again, same thing. Ball's gone past me, I'm seeing a catch. I take the catch. Again, outside of myself going this way, see the catch. I take the catch. The main thing is, I don't have to throw the ball. I've caught the ball, the wicket's done. Doesn't matter the position I end up in. I can reduce the impact on the floor by rolling. I can keep the ball like I would when I'm catching on the line and the height of the ball, and I can allow the ball to travel past me. The finishing position is not relevant. The reason why we land in these positions when we're stopping is because we need to sometimes be able to return to our feet. So we need to be able to be in a position either when we're tumbling or when we're on the front where we can get back and throw the ball. So there's a few other dives that I'd still group into diving. One being, it's an extension of what we did at the start actually. It's a ball where you're running to the boundary. There's sliding where you're going into the impact, tapping the ball back. And as the ball gets closer, let's imagine this cut in the mat is our boundary. As the ball gets closer to the mat edge or the boundary edge, I might not be able to slide and still get the ball back. I might have to tap back and then hit the floor. So that might be tapping back and landing on my front, or it might be tapping back and landing on my back or over my shoulder. Again, you can start that process on all 4s, making it really safe, getting them used to tap backs, getting them used to tapping and landing on front. It's all about trying to engage with positive experiences of hitting the floor, safe experience of hitting the floor, and also understanding that the dive that I need to perform is relative to the ball and the line it's on, not the dive that I have in my head. Because some things change and I might overrun a ball. I need to be flexible and I need to have a lot of different options in my body to be able to produce a dive that's needed, while still keeping the basics and the starting point as well.
Okay, so we're going to have a look at diving. There are a number of different dives. This one's going to be for a low ball, which is going to be about that height. So what we're going to look to do, first of all, is make sure that we land safely, because we don't want to get injured. And then secondly, just look to develop the technique and how we might coach it and get players to do it in a safe environment. All right, so in essence, what we're looking to do is once we've caught the ball, we're looking to land almost in the plank position. So we're landing in that position there at a bit of an angle if we can. All right, so the first thing that makes contact will be the forearms. So we've got to make sure that they land, and as they do, we're looking to push them along the ground to make sure we dissipate our energy. Otherwise, it comes back through, what goes down comes back up straight into your neck and your shoulders, so we don't want that. So we want to try and push it out. And then when we do land, we're looking to land on torso, hips and thighs. And we're always looking to dissipate our energy in the direction away from us there, okay? So going back, working backwards, as we're walking in and we set, we might be opening up here because we know the ball's going that way, and we're looking to push and create all the power from that inside leg that's then going to project us that way. And as we go along and push, that will give us distance to get along to the ball. Beautiful, there you go. So you can see, pushing out, because don't forget, once we've pushed out, we've got a job as fielders, because it might be a no ball, it might be a bump ball. We've either got to get up onto one knee, ready to throw it back, or we've got to get onto our feet, ready to throw it back, all right? So once we've gone off our knees, we might just go in as best a crouch position as we can. We don't want to be square on, we don't want to be diving off the edge of the swimming pool. Just want to be at that sort of 45 angle there, nice and low. And there we go, and then I'm ready to pop up, okay? So once I get the habit of that, then I can just start with that really low position. And then once I'm ready, I can just get my timing right, have a little bit of a walk in, set, and getting in that way, okay? Now, just to help me out, I've got championship winner from 2021, Warwickshire's Oliver Hannon-Dolby. He's going to help out and just jump in here and have a go. Really watch it in, try and catch it as far in front of you as you can. Beautiful. Onto your knees. So probably just want to go a little bit 45-ish if you can. That's it. So you probably need to go with that with the mat. And then just 2 hands and then push your elbows out, yeah? There you go, good lad. There you go, pushing those elbows out. So if he now needs to, he can pop up from there onto his knees or onto his feet. Just on that, if you want to just come in here, just lie down again like you've just taken a great diving catch. Simo, you say go, okay? You're right-handed, aren't you? Yep. So what we're going to do, when Simo says go, you've got to get onto your feet into a balanced position, ready to throw that way. I'm going to do that way. Let's see who the winner is, okay? Ready? Simo, you say go. I did say onto your feet. Never mind, never mind. But that was a good one on your knee. I'm loving it. So I tell you what, you can go feet or knees then. Say feet or knees.
I'll go feet. I'm going to beat you.
He wants to go feet. All right, wants to go feet. Done him again. Right, last one. Last one. Here we go. Okay, so one of the ways of doing that, and you might just want to try this, is that when you've got the ball, just look to get yourself into a press-up position, and as you do, just bring your knees on the outsides of your elbow and stand up. So just try that again. So just slowly, slowly. So you got the ball, press-up position, knees on the outside. Hey, there you go. Yeah, but nice and quiet, nice and quiet. It's not go heavy, come on. There you go, not a race, not a race, off you go. There you go, there you go. Yeah, and then likewise, we can do the same. If we're there, we can either go onto our knees to throw, or we might want to go one knee, which is whatever works for that individual. The key with this is, yeah, just get ready as if you're just getting set. So centre of gravity, I'll be looking for, regardless of height, is making sure that centre of gravity is really low. So I'll be looking for a really good squat position there for you to be in that sort of position there. The higher you are, the more energy is going that way rather than that way. So we need to get down as much as we can. All right. 3. 1, 2, 3. So what we've seen there is a combination of we get in there with it. There was a little bit of just that knee hitting the ground, which just stopped him going. And then just there at the end, we just saw a little bit of turning and almost landing on the side. So we've just got to make sure that players are committed and looking to get on their front. If we go onto our side, it's a little bit more injury prone, and also it's then difficult to then pop ourselves back up as well. So that's what we're probably looking to do. So the reason I'm going to go onto the bigger crash mat here just with Oliver is just to build a little bit of confidence and just get him, A, get the ball in his hands so as it builds his confidence, and B, him comfortable landing on his front because he knows it's softer straight away. So it's just about building confidence. So you've got to sort of tic-tac-toe between the two and just got to make sure you keep moving them. Ready? 1, 2, 3. There we go. 1, 2, 3, push, push. Okay, so what was the difference between that one and the one before? Yep, just.
What did you stretch me further?
Yep, I did that for a reason.
Do you reckon I was like lower rather than more?
You were lower, and you push with that inside leg more to get you more distance, and on the first one, your knees made contact first with the ground, whereas with that one, it was your forearms. 1, 2, 3. There you go. Good lad. So, because the pace has just done you a little bit, you've probably ended up not quite 90, but you're still on the angle a little bit, but look where you've cut it off, okay? So the more and more repetitions of that now, so this is about time on task and building the skill in with the right technique, which we've got now, and then we're going back to those, same thing, and then push, 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 push. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Yeah, good lad. All right, ready? 1, 2, 3. Good lad. It's in there. Good man. So, not landing on your knees now, and you've started swooshing. Okay, so what we're getting now is a swoosh rather than a crash into the ground, okay? So much, much better. Keep getting lower. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Good lad. That's the one. That's the one. 2, 3. Yes. Good one to finish on. Okay. So, in essence, in terms of diving for that particular type of ball, Those are the sorts of things that I'd be looking to do. Okay, so what we're going to do here is we're just going to have a look at a roll, okay, or some people call it a tumble. So imagine the ball's being hit straight to me. I can just pick it up and I'm ready to throw it back. If it's a little bit wider like we've just done, you've just seen the low dive, or if it's just a little bit wider of me, it's just a little bit out of my reach and I can't quite pick it up. So as you are approaching the ball, you'll step to it with your leg, foot nearest the ball, and then you're looking to pick it up with two hands. And then as you pick it up with two hands there, you're looking to get your chest and then almost do a judo roll. So you'll pick it up and then you're ready to throw. And then likewise, coming back left, same thing, ball's on the ground, or you can practice this way. Again, inside leg, pick the ball up, roll, pick yourself up, and you're ready to throw. So have a think about getting your foot near the ball. Yeah, getting nice and low. You've got to be really low. Hands are on the floor, literally. Yeah, in you come, yeah. Okay, so as you pick it up there, you're rolling, push up, get into a throwing position, same going left. There we go, pop yourself up. So quite dynamic with that. Yeah, the other things that we can talk about as well is a slide, which is the figure four. So you might have heard that referred to, where people run after the ball, turn, run after the ball, and then they get into this figure four position here. So I'm right-handed, I've landed on my left side, sorry. Pick the ball up with my right hand, I've got my spikes on outside, use them as a brake. I've got this foot, so I can either stand up, get on my knee, or I can pop myself up onto my feet, ready to throw, okay? So just watch again. So imagine there, I've turned after the ball, I'm going after it, nice and low, and then I can pick the ball up. And the important thing to this now is making sure that this part of the leg is parallel to the surface. So when I push myself along the ground, I'm just going to slide. As soon as I increase that angle there, all my weight is now going into the ground. And depending on the surface you're playing, if it grips, that's where you're going to get injury and it's not an effective slide. So we've got to make sure we're in that position there, where we're trying to land on here as much as we can. The further we get back, the better, I would suggest, all right? So I think in football terms, they call it a sliding tackle, yeah? So you're just trying to get down into that position as much as you can. So the way to build that up is, I'm right-handed, so I'd go left hand, right foot there, and I'm gonna look to get my left leg underneath me, all right? Don't really need the ball for this, okay? So we just leave that there for now. All that I'm looking to do is to get that there, and then push, ball will roll into my hand, ready to pop up. Yeah. So what we're going to do here is that we've looked at the low dive, we've looked at the tumble. What happens when the ball's sort of really high? It might be that now, as we take the ball, we can't land as we were earlier. We've got to get a roll in and look to land and dissipate our energy again. So without the ball, it would look something like this, okay? It would look like this, okay? So we've walked in, we've seen the ball, take the catch, and then it might be that I'm rolling out that way to get rid of the ball. Okay. Yes, there we go, good. There we go. Okay, so with that height and you're dissipating that energy, you're looking to get that roll in all the time to make sure you're landing safely first and foremost, but then not forgetting the attention to detail that where we're looking to get the ball in the correct part of the hand, whether it's one hand or two hand, making sure that we're trapping the ball.